fun, just like always.
Don't look at me. I think these people are completely nuts.
What is up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the effortlessly entertaining Dr. Disaster, and the level of delusion required in order to believe anything that comes out of the mouths of Ubisoft is off the charts.
What are you, fucking stupid?
Everything that Ubisoft has done in the past few years has completely blown up in their faces because they don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't know what the hell they're talking about, which is why in the past year they have lost over half of their value on the stock market. But that has not stopped the CEO of the company from coming out and trying to convince everyone that actually, yeah, Assassin's Creed Shadows was a major win for them. He recently attended a conference where he told everyone that they won the battle against the Assassin's Creed Shadows backlash.
A great victory was won today, but that victory is not yours.
But what's really pathetic to me is that despite all of the sales data available for Assassin's Creed Shadows showing the game has sold around 4 million units, and despite all of the budget information available which clearly shows that they need to sell around 7.5 million copies of the game at full price in order to break even, and we can all clearly see that this points to what will likely amount to around $100 million loss on this game, if not significantly more. But despite all of this, you still have people responding to this announcement about Ubisoft supposedly winning this battle against the fans, saying shit like this.
There's no backlash if you're a normal person and don't spend all your time online. Really odd that any of these companies even acknowledge this shit anymore. Just make the games, movies, art, and ignore the bait.
I can't believe you fell for the oldest trick in the book! What a goof! What's with you, man? Come on!
Yeah, the Ubisoft defenders out there, and it's amazing that they still even exist at this point, but they will try to tell you crap like that, where they say that these corporations should just keep churning out the slop and ignore all the so-called minority of haters. But if this were true, if it was just a small minority of people who refused to buy this game, then why in the bloody hell did Ubisoft recently announce that they canceled that Civil War era game for Assassin's Creed, which would have featured a black dude as the main character? If the backlash was no big deal, and that was, by the way, the stated reason as to why they canceled this game, but if that backlash wasn't a big deal, why did they just effectively fire the creative director of the series and yank the franchise out of the control of Ubisoft and give it to Vantage Studio, which is partially owned by Tencent? The only way you can still be this devoted to Ubisoft and believe any of their deluded bullshit is if your personal philosophy is, unironically,
don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited for next product.
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I've had a lot of people tell me they have been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel, so make sure you look into that, and also, don't forget to follow me over on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster1, and if you want to help keep the lights on, consider becoming a member of the channel for as little as $5. But in any case, let's dig on in to what this CEO of Ubisoft recently said about how they defeated the chuds in the Battle of Assassin's Creed Shadows. We're going to read about what was said in this article here from Video Games Chronicle, which will be linked in the description. It says here, as reported by GameFile, the Ubisoft CEO attended Paris Game Week to give a discussion on technological upheavals such as live game worlds, AI-driven NPCs, and the potential for VR. Before getting to this, however, Guillemot reportedly analyzed the backlash against Assassin's Creed Shadows, then showed attendees a video described by GameFile as pretty corporate but also very dramatic, which explained how the company turned things around. Following its initial announcement, Assassin's Creed Shadows received criticism from some corners of the internet, partly because one of the co-protagonists, Yasuke, is a black samurai. Some accused Ubisoft of being woke by featuring Yasuke in the game, even though Yasuke was an actual person in real life. And let me just butt in here and say this as simply as possible so that the morons out there might have a chance at understanding. Nobody is disputing that Yasuke existed. The dispute is over his historical significance. By almost every account, the dude was essentially just a servant and seen as a weird anomaly by the people of Japan because most of them back then had never seen anyone that looked like Yasuke before. But Ubisoft took this extremely minor historical figure and catapulted him to the status of a samurai in a game that tries to be at least semi-historically accurate, and the only reason to do this was to pander to the progressive shitlibs out there who want to sing kumbaya and hold hands and pretend like all cultures are the same and have always gotten along and all that sort of thing. But let's be real here. The primary method of argumentation from these dweebs is pretending not to understand basic things in order to get normal people to waste time bickering over kindergarten levels of obviousness. But I'm completely damned over it, and I'm just gonna say that if you don't acknowledge that Assassin's Creed Shadows was woke, then you are either a disingenuous pile of dung or you're retarded. That being said, I do appreciate them acknowledging that woke is something that games want to avoid. That tacit admission does bring a grin to my face. But then the article tells us Ubisoft delayed the game numerous times, saying it was incorporating player feedback, and it was eventually released on March 20th. In his presentation, Guillemot said Ubisoft was initially surprised by the extent of the attacks via GameFile's translation, adding, "We quickly realized that it was a battle with our fans, to demonstrate that we were, in fact, more of a video game than a message. And if there was ever a statement made by this moron that perfectly crystallizes why he has no business being in charge of the company any longer, it is this right here. For cripe's sake, the dude is openly talking about a battle with the fans, acknowledging that they went to war with us. My dude, there is no winning such a battle because you will never convince everyone of your views, and you will lose customers over something like this. So, as a company which should be in the business of turning a profit, there is no way to walk away from such a battle and consider it a victory. But this jackass will not let common sense like that get in the way of his spin." The article says next, he then played the 3-minute video which ran in English and explained how Ubisoft dealt with the backlash, asking what happens when a legendary franchise reveals one of its most anticipated experiences only to become the game everyone loves to hate, when conversation shifts from gameplay to ideology, when everything you say only adds fuel to the fire. Well, I will tell you what happens. The game, which was supposed to be pretty much the biggest game in the history of the company, which is why they felt comfortable dropping literal hundreds of millions of dollars into making it, but it ended up with a muted response that eventually culminated in this right here, where the company is getting pretty damned close to not even being worth $1 billion on the stock market. These idiots can pretend that adding Yasuke to the game, which always felt like an alien appendage being grafted onto a body, but they can pretend that it wasn't woke, but it was, and we know it. no other playable assassin in the franchise was ever based on a historical figure. They've always been fictional, and the only reason Ubisoft did it was to virtue signal and show everyone how not racist they are. Unfortunately for Ubisoft, they started making the game back in 2020 or so when such a narrative might have worked. But these days, that just ain't gonna cut it. Anyhow, then the article says, according to the video, in September 2024, we had our backs against the wall, and that's when it clicked. To get out of the corner, we had to stop focusing on those who hated us. We had to start firing up our allies. So we stopped trying to win the argument and leaned on what had carried us for 18 years, the Assassin's Creed brand. Your opportunity to do that, my guy, was back when you had the choice whether or not to make the game woke in the first place. You made your decision, and it was a failed choice. And we know that it was, because if it wasn't, then you wouldn't have canceled that Civil War era game with the black protagonist. And that, by the way, actually sounds like a solid idea for a game that I would have considered playing as long as they didn't get all preachy with it. But they canceled that game because of the backlash to Shadows. That exact reason was reported just a few weeks ago, so this bullshit narrative that they somehow beat the backlash to Shadows is more historical revisionism from a company who specializes in that shit. The article then goes on to say that the way they handled the controversy was by delaying the game from a release of November of last year all the way to March of this year, and I am old enough to remember when these people, in an attempt to save face, tried convincing us that the delay had nothing to do with the backlash. Now they are freely admitting what was extremely obvious even back then, that they stepped on a hornet's nest and they ran away from the consequences like a bunch of chicken shits. Well, one thing that I will not tolerate is the gaslighting from these people. I am utterly sick and tired of these losers trying to play things off as if everything is hunky-dory, because it's not. This level of blatant disregard for the truth is disgusting to me, and I just won't have it. The victim posturing paired with the conquering hero facade is a level of insufferable that I simply will not tolerate. Ubisoft deserves all the scorn and disdain that we can throw at their failing asses. But I'm gonna leave it there. Drop your scorn and disdain for this company and its turd of a CEO into the comment section below, and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.